Her eyes used to light up when you walked in. Now they barely register you. The texts that once came fast and eager are now slow and dry. The conversations that flowed without effort now feel like you're pulling teeth. You've felt this shift before. You've seen women's attention fade and their respect erode, and you've tried everything they told you would work. Being nicer, giving more, chasing harder. But all it's done is make you feel smaller, weaker, invisible, and the truth you've avoided is this. It's not about how much you give her, it's about the man you are when you stop giving her what costs you your dignity, because attraction is not built by constant availability, it's built by mystery, by discipline, by a man's refusal to trade his principles for temporary approval. And today we're going to break down 7 silent moves that make women crave your attention. Moves rooted in psychology, in reality, and in the timeless principles of Stoicism, because a Stoic man understands that his control begins and ends with himself, that he cannot command her emotions, but he can command his actions, his boundaries, and his time. And when you master that, you stop chasing women and start drawing them in without a word, because she feels it when you no longer hinge your worth on her validation. She feels it when your attention is earned instead of assumed. And she feels it when you move through life with purpose that doesn't bend to her moods. And some of you will resist this because you've been trained to believe that being liked is the same as being respected. But I'm telling you now, the moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you guard your time, the moment you lead without needing applause, the moment you refuse to understand her every whim, the moment you choose stillness over reaction, you become the man she can't stop thinking about, because you are no longer the man she can control. And if you're ready to take that control back, not just from her, but from every situation where you've been handing it away, then you need to hear every second of what I'm about to tell you, because by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to flip the script, reclaim your presence, and live in a way that makes her crave the attention you give. Because it's rare, it's earned, and it comes from a man who knows his worth and refuses to negotiate it. Number 1, stop explaining yourself. You live your life as if every decision you make is up for public trial, as if every action needs to be defended like you're standing in front of a jury that could strip away your worth with one guilty verdict. You treat every accusation, every doubt, every raised eyebrow from her as an emergency that requires a full, detailed account of your innocence. And you don't see the slow erosion of respect this causes, because every time you open your mouth to justify yourself, you are telling her you fear her misunderstanding more than you value your own truth. You are teaching her that your confidence is fragile, that it needs to be constantly reinforced by her approval. You are broadcasting that you are willing to trade your frame, your stance, your conviction, just to smooth over her temporary feelings. And it doesn't matter how logical your explanation is. It doesn't matter how much sense you make. Because in the world of attraction and respect, over-explaining is never about logic. It is about submission. It is about signaling that her perception of you holds more weight than your own self-perception. And when you do this enough times, you become predictable, safe to challenge, easy to rattle, because she knows that with the right tone, the right accusation, she can pull you into defending yourself like a man on trial. And this is where you lose, not because she doesn't see the truth, but because she now sees you as a man who cannot sit in the discomfort of being misunderstood. And if you cannot handle being misunderstood, you will never be truly respected. So what is the alternative? The alternative is radical discipline over your tongue. It is learning to answer without spilling your internal world onto the table for someone else to dissect. It is responding with finality instead of endless explanation, and it starts in the smallest interactions. When she asks why you didn't respond right away, you say, "I was busy," and you stop there. When she questions why you made a certain choice, you give the reason in one sentence and you stop there. No follow-up, no defensive rambling, no desperate attempt to make her see your side, because your side doesn't need to be seen for it to be valid. And yes, at first this will trigger her to push harder. She will press for more detail. She will accuse you of hiding something. She will try to bait you into the old behavior. But if you hold the line calmly, without hostility, you will see a shift. Because the more you refuse to hand over your inner state for inspection, the more she will feel the weight of your self-possession, the more she will realize she cannot sway you with emotional pressure. And that realization is both frustrating and deeply attractive, because it forces her to meet you on your terms, not drag you into hers. And this doesn't just apply to her, it applies to everyone in your life. You start carrying yourself like a man whose worth is not debated at the table of public opinion, and you find that people argue less with you, they test you less, they watch you more carefully, because they sense that you are not a man who can be cornered into spilling every thought in his head. And when you stop explaining yourself, you stop giving away the power of your word, because your word becomes final. Not a draft waiting for her edits, not a proposal waiting for her approval. And this is where respect is born. This is where attraction grows. This is where you stop living as the defendant and start living as the judge of your own life. And it will change everything. Not because she changes first, but because you do. And once you change, every dynamic around you either rises to meet you or falls away entirely. And that's exactly how it should be. And if you want to lock this shift into your life permanently, I've put everything you need into the Stoic relationship blueprint. It's linked in the comments, and once you have it, it's yours forever. So this isn't some fleeting motivation you'll forget in a week. It's a blueprint you can come back to anytime life tries to pull you back into your old habits. Anytime you feel yourself slipping into over-explaining, over-giving, or over-chasing, you'll have a clear, proven path to reset yourself instantly, because this isn't theory, it's the exact step-by-step structure to build the kind of presence, boundaries, and self-control that make her, and everyone else, see you differently, respect you more, and value your attention like gold. And the question you have to ask yourself is simple. If you could carry this knowledge with you for the rest of your life, ready whenever you need it, why would you not take it right now while it's in front of you? Number 2, control your availability. You have been taught, either directly or by the way you've been treated, that the fastest way to win someone over is to always be there, to answer the phone before it rings twice, to rearrange your schedule so you can be available at a moment's notice, to make sure she never feels your absence for too long. And maybe it feels noble. Maybe you think it shows commitment, but in reality, what it shows is that your time is cheap, that it can be bought with the smallest amount of attention from her. And whether she admits it or not, she stops valuing what is always guaranteed, because human nature doesn't respect what it doesn't have to work for. And this is where most men sabotage themselves. They flood the market with their presence until it's worth nothing. They make themselves so accessible that she stops wondering what they're doing. She stops thinking about them at all. Because why would she? You are always just one text away, always ready to drop whatever you're doing, always prepared to prioritize her over your own mission. And the solution to this is not to play games or pretend to be busy. It is to actually build a life that makes you busy. A life so filled with purpose, goals, and non-negotiable commitments that you cannot and will not abandon them just because she calls. It means your schedule is designed around your mission, not her mood. It means you are not afraid to let her wait for a reply because you are deep in your work, deep in your training, deep in something that moves your life forward. And this changes everything, because when you are not instantly available, when she has to wait, when she has to wonder, she starts to value the moments she does get with you. They become more charged, more intentional, because scarcity amplifies value. And this isn't about punishing her, it's about respecting yourself. It's about realizing that if you have no boundaries around your time, no woman will create them for you. And when you start living this way, you will notice something. The people who truly value you will adapt. They will find ways to fit into your world instead of demanding you bend your world around theirs. And the ones who only wanted you when you were on call will fade away. And that's a good thing, because they were never there for you. They were there for the convenience you provided. So start today. Block out time that belongs to you and protect it fiercely. If she texts while you're working, Finish your work before you answer. If she wants to see you but you have a training session, you go to your training session. If she tries to guilt you for not being as available as before, you hold your line, because you know that being less available is not neglect. It is the natural state of a man who is actually building something worth having. And the truth is, women are drawn to men who have somewhere to be, something to do, and a purpose that doesn't revolve around them, because that kind of man is rare, and rarity is irresistible. So stop flooding the market with your presence. Let her feel your absence, not as a manipulation, but as the inevitable result of you living a life that is too important to pause just to keep her entertained, because that is how you create desire that doesn't fade, respect that doesn't erode, and a relationship that revolves around mutual value, not constant availability. Number 3. Respond with calm, not emotion. You think you are showing strength when you raise your voice, when you fire back instantly, when you meet her emotional surge with your own, but what you are really doing is showing that she has access to your control panel, that with the right words, the right tone, the right accusations, she can flip your state from calm to chaos in seconds, and the moment she learns she can do that, the respect begins to erode. Because whether she admits it or not, no one deeply respects a man they can easily destabilize. And this doesn't just happen with women. It happens in every arena of your life. If your boss can provoke you into snapping, if a stranger can trigger you into losing composure, if your friend can pull you into defending yourself in anger, you have handed them your emotional steering wheel, and you will feel it in their energy towards you from that moment forward. Because a man who cannot control himself is a man they cannot fully trust, and yet most men operate like this without thinking. They are reactive to the point where they have no baseline. They wake up in someone else's mood. They go to bed in someone else's chaos, and they never stop to ask themselves why they are so quick to hand over control. And the truth is, it's habit. It's learned weakness. It's the ingrained belief that matching energy is the same as standing up for yourself. But the reality is that real strength is not about matching her intensity. It's about remaining the same regardless of it. It's about knowing that when the storm hits, you are not a leaf being blown around. You are the ground itself, unmoved. And when you operate from that place, everything changes. The arguments lose their power because you are no longer giving her the reaction she is used to. The accusations feel hollow because you are not feeding them with defensive energy. And she begins to adjust her behavior without you having to demand it, because she senses that her usual tactics no longer work. And this is not about being cold or distant. It's about being deliberate. It's about choosing your emotional responses instead of having them chosen for you. And the way you build this is through discipline in small moments. When she throws a jab, you pause before answering. When she accuses, you let the words hang before you respond. When she tries to pull you into an argument, you choose which points, if any, are worth engaging. And you do it on your time, in your tone, and never as a reflex. Because reflex is weakness in this arena. Reflex is surrender. And the more you practice this, the more you will see the dynamic shift. She will become less erratic around you, less likely to provoke, and more drawn in, because you are now the one in control of the pace, the tone, and the direction of the conversation. And beyond that, you will notice a deeper change in yourself. A quiet confidence that comes from knowing you cannot be easily shaken, and that confidence will bleed into every part of your life, into business, into friendships, into every negotiation, because people instinctively follow those who remain calm when others lose control. They trust them more, they defer to them more. And that is the kind of man you need to be if you want lasting respect and lasting attraction, because anyone can react, but only the few who can stay composed when provoked hold the real power. Number 4, lead without overtalking. You believe that if you explain your reasoning thoroughly enough, if you lay out every detail of your plan, if you make sure she fully understands why you made a decision, she will follow you gladly. But in reality, the more you talk, the more you dilute your authority. Because leadership is not about convincing, it's about moving. It's about showing direction through action, not endless discussion. And the more you rely on speeches, the more you signal that you need buy-in before you can act, that you require her permission to lead. And whether you notice it or not, this erodes her confidence in you, because people, and especially women, are wired to respond to decisiveness. They feel safest when the man they are with can take in information, weigh it, decide, and execute without turning it into a debate every single time. And this doesn't mean ignoring her input. It means integrating it quickly and moving forward without dragging the decision through hours of circular conversation. Because the moment she senses hesitation, the moment she feels that you are looking to her to validate your direction, she starts to see you as less capable of steering the ship. And attraction lives and dies on that perception. So you must train yourself to lead with brevity, to say what needs to be said and nothing more, to set the plan and then follow through without waiting for applause. And you do this by cutting out the habit of over-talking in small situations first. If you decide where you're going to eat, say it and go. If you choose the route to take, start driving without narrating your reasoning. If you set a boundary, state it without giving a lengthy defense. And over time, this builds a pattern where your words are associated with action, where your decisions carry weight because they are not padded with nervous over-explaining. And what happens is, she begins to trust your leadership more, not because you are infallible, but because you are willing to own your calls without hiding behind excessive explanation. And this carries into every part of your life. Because the man who leads without over-talking is the man who moves the fastest, who executes the cleanest, who doesn't get bogged down in seeking universal approval before acting, and people follow that. They respond to it instinctively because decisive leadership is rare, and the rarer something is, the more it is valued. So start cutting the fat from your words. Start treating your decisions like they stand on their own legs, and watch how the respect in your relationships, your workplace, and your social circles shifts in your favor. Because while others are still explaining why they're going to do something, you'll already be halfway there. Number 5, be unpredictable. You make yourself too easy to read, too easy to anticipate, too easy to put in a box. And when a woman knows exactly what you will do, what you will say, where you will go, and how you will react, the spark fades. Not because she hates stability, but because stability without variety turns into monotony, and monotony suffocates desire. And you don't even notice it happening because you think you're being consistent. You think showing up the same way every day proves your reliability. But what it actually does is rob the relationship of the tension and curiosity that fuels attraction. Because people, especially women, are drawn to what they cannot fully predict. They are drawn to the man whose life has layers they haven't yet seen, whose time has value they haven't fully claimed, whose actions come from his own rhythm instead of a routine designed to keep her comfortable. And this is where most men fail. They confuse security with sameness. They lock themselves into patterns that make them feel safe, but make them invisible in her mind. And over time, she stops wondering about them. She stops anticipating the next interaction, because she already knows exactly how it will go. And the way out of this trap is not chaos. It is not playing games or creating drama. It is living a life so full and self-directed that even the person closest to you cannot always predict your next move. It means having passions and pursuits outside of her that take you places she didn't know you'd go. It means having the freedom and willingness to change your environment, your schedule, your activities without feeling the need to pre-announce or explain. It means cultivating interests and skills that evolve over time so you are never a static figure in her life. And when you live this way, you create a natural unpredictability, because she cannot claim all of you. She cannot map you out like a well-worn path. And that unpredictability is not recklessness. It is the byproduct of growth, of movement, of ambition that refuses to be contained. And it forces her to stay engaged, to keep paying attention, to keep chasing the feeling of discovering you. And this applies to more than just romance. It applies to every relationship and every perception people have of you. Because the man who is always in the same place doing the same thing, in the same way, becomes background noise in everyone's life. while the man who evolves, who adds new dimensions to himself, who refuses to be fully mapped out, remains in the foreground. And you can start building this today by doing something different with your time, by pursuing an interest you've put off, by saying yes to opportunities you normally decline, by changing the pace and structure of your days so they serve your goals rather than the comfort of predictability. And the more you do this, the more she has to pay attention, the more she has to wonder, the more she has to earn the right to be part of the unfolding story that is your life. Because the truth is, people value what they have to work to understand. They invest in what they feel they could lose if they stop trying. And if you want to keep the respect, desire, and loyalty of a woman or anyone, you cannot make yourself so easy to figure out that they stop looking. You must keep moving, keep growing, keep surprising, not through gimmicks, but through genuine progress. Because progress is the most attractive unpredictability there is. And when you live this way, you never have to force her to crave your attention. She will crave it because she knows she doesn't have all of you, and she will never stop wanting to see the parts she hasn't yet discovered. Number 6, don't try to understand her every move. You exhaust yourself trying to decode every shift in her tone, every pause in her messages, every change in her energy, and you call it caring. You tell yourself you're just trying to be attentive, but what you're really doing is placing her at the center of your mental universe and treating her behavior like a puzzle that you're responsible for solving. And the brutal truth is that the more you obsess over understanding her every move, the more you train her to believe that she is the one who sets the pace, defines the terms, and determines the mood of the relationship, because you've made her behavior the main subject of your attention. And this is exactly why you feel drained. Because you're operating under the illusion that if you can just understand her well enough, you can avoid conflict, you can keep her happy, you can make her stay. But all that does is put you in a permanent state of emotional reaction, where you are not living your own life, but constantly adjusting yourself to fit whatever she is feeling in that moment. And this is why you find yourself anxious when she is distant, why you overthink when she doesn't respond the way you expected, why you feel unsettled when you can't read her, because you've tied your sense of security to your ability to interpret and manage her emotions. And you need to understand that this is not leadership, this is not love, this is dependency disguised as attentiveness, and it strips you of the one thing that makes you truly attractive, your ability to be self-directed regardless of her behavior. And the way out of this is to stop making her patterns your project. Stop turning every silence into a crisis. Stop taking every mood change as a call to action. Because not everything she does has a deeper meaning, and even if it does, it is not always your job to uncover it. Instead, start operating from the principle that your focus belongs on your mission, your growth, your standards, and that the people in your life, including her, are responsible for communicating their needs directly if they want them met. And yes, when you first do this, she may accuse you of being distant. She may test you by pulling away harder. She may demand that you go back to the man who was always trying to read her mind, but you cannot go back because that man was exhausted, insecure, and reactive. And the man you are becoming is grounded, intentional, and selective with his attention. And when you live this way, something shifts. She either steps up and starts communicating openly, or she drifts away because the game she wanted to play no longer works on you. And either outcome is a win, because you either build a relationship based on clarity and mutual respect, or you clear space for someone who values your presence without needing you to constantly analyze them. And the irony is that when you stop trying to understand her every move, she often becomes easier to understand, because your detachment from the guessing game forces her to be clearer if she wants to connect. And this applies everywhere in life, whether it's business, family, or friendships, because the man who spends his time decoding others is always 2 steps behind them, reacting to their movements instead of making his own. But the man who moves with intention and lets others reveal themselves in their own time is always in the lead. So stop making her your study. Stop acting like your worth depends on predicting her next step. and start living as though your value is fixed, your path is set, and anyone who wants to walk beside you will show you who they are without you having to read between the lines. Because when you do this, you stop chasing clarity from her and start radiating clarity to her. And that is when the dynamic changes in your favor permanently. Number 7, say no without drama. You have spent too much of your life saying yes when you wanted to say no, agreeing to things that drain you, tolerating situations that go against your values, and bending your time and energy for people who would never bend in the same way for you. And you tell yourself it's to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, to show that you're supportive. But what you're really doing is teaching everyone around you, especially her, that your boundaries are soft, that your priorities can be overridden, that your respect can be bought with the smallest dose of approval or affection. And the more you do this, the less they value you, because people instinctively respect what is scarce and self-protected, and they take for granted what is always available and compliant. And the truth is, every time you say yes when you mean no, you are silently announcing that your life is not fully your own, that you will trade your time, your comfort, and your energy for the temporary relief of avoiding someone's disappointment. But that disappointment is unavoidable anyway, because the resentment you feel for betraying yourself will leak out in your tone, your actions, and your presence, and she will feel it even if she can't name it. And this cycle is why so many men feel trapped in relationships where they are constantly giving but never feeling truly respected or desired. Because respect is not born from constant agreement. It's born from having the courage to say no without apology, without justification, without theatrics, and doing it consistently enough that people believe you the first time. And this is not about being cold or selfish. It's about living by a clear code of what you will and will not accept, and protecting that code fiercely. Because the man who says no when it matters is the man whose yes actually means something. And if you want to build this in your life, you start small. The next time someone asks for your time in a way that would pull you from something important, decline without a paragraph of excuses. The next time she pushes for something you're not willing to do, simply state, "No, I'm not doing that," and move on, not with anger, but with finality. Because a boundary wrapped in calm certainty is unbreakable. And yes, at first this will shock her. It will frustrate her. It may even make her question whether you still care. But over time, if she has any respect for you at all, she will adapt. Because boundaries create the space where respect grows. And the ones who cannot handle your no are the ones who are never going to value your yes. And the more you practice this, the more you will see the quality of your relationships shift. Because people will know you cannot be manipulated with guilt. They will know that your attention, your time, and your energy are not things they can demand. They are things they must earn. And that shift will draw in the right kind of people while filtering out the ones who only wanted you for what you could give them without question. And in that space, you become a man whose presence has weight, whose agreements have meaning, whose life is no longer shaped by the demands of others but by the standards you set for yourself. And that is the kind of man who doesn't just attract respect. He commands it without asking. If you've listened this far, you already know the truth. Most men will hear this and do nothing. They'll nod, they'll agree, and then they'll go right back to explaining themselves, giving their time away for free and living at the mercy of a woman's moods. And those men will pay for it with years they can't get back, with regrets they'll carry to their last breath. But you don't have to be one of them. You can draw a line right now and decide that your life, your respect, and your power are no longer negotiable. That's exactly why I created the Stoic Relationship Blueprint for Men. It's not just a book, it's a permanent weapon in your hands, a guide you can return to every time you feel the old patterns creeping in, every time you're tempted to hand away your authority for approval. And once you have it, it's yours for life. It will never expire, never vanish, and it will always be there to pull you back to the man you know you can be. It's linked in the comments, and if you're ready to take it, type "never again" in the comments so I know you're not just listening, you're acting. Then like this video and subscribe. Because the more men hear these truths, the more we can pull them out of years of weakness and regret.